Hey everyone, Mystical Mark here. So this will be your intuitive astrology forecast for the week of October 19th to the 25th of 2025. In this video, I will intuitively tune in to both the major and minor aspects that will be occurring this week. I tune into my own higher self to those aspects to get the overall energetic vibe of, what is going on for the week. Okay? And of course, at the end of the video, I will also intuitively tune in as a general energy for how we may be affected individually, and also a general energy for globally, it's usually like politically, economically, whatever, just a general vibe for the week, all right? And of course, I do like most minor aspects, not all of them, because there's a lot of them, but I do what is available to me in the apps that I use and from what I know and understand, all right? With all that being said, of course, if you're looking for any kind of a reading with me, you can head on over to the link in the description, over to my Ko-Fi shop, and all that information is there. I do still offer the $10 3-minute just a quickie reading, which you can get through either just astrology or a one-card oracle card reading as well. Okay? And of course, as I say at the beginning of all of my videos, astrology is an energetic template conducive to certain things. That is my guidance. It likely always will be my guidance. Okay, meaning that what they gave me as the astrology, the energetic template, the chart's like the energetic template. It's like a math formula, but there's variables that exist within that formula. And of course, those are subject to change, and we have the ability to change them due to free will. Okay? And since I also do this intuitively, anything that comes through intuitively regarding any aspect of any future event is always subject to change, again, due to free will. That's not just my readings, that is anybody's readings that happens. If they're tuning in intuitively, doing cards, astrology, whatever, if they specifically predict a certain event, it is always subject to change no matter what, due to free will. Okay? Because we have free will. All right, with all that being said, I think we can now get into the charts for this week. All right, so let me get in here. So we're going to start here on Sunday, October 19th. All right, and on this day, we have Mercury here in Scorpio, and it's making some aspects to the nodes here. So trine the North Node and sextile the South Node. So I'm just going to tune in here. Mercury aspecting the nodes. What have we got from Mercury aspecting the nodes? Feel a strong intensity with that Mercury in Scorpio. Like maybe there's intensity regarding an aspect of communication. Obviously, we're dealing with Mercury. There's this path forward that it almost seems like, well, it's the lighted path. It feels lighted, but it feels like there's resistance in going in that path because of how unknown it seems. Okay, and I've said this with North Node in Pisces before, that's kind of that vibe. We're heading into an unknown path. We know we have to go there, but it feels unknown. All right, let's get with the sextile to the South Node here. What I get initially is what's hard to let go of is the practicality that we're used to, okay? And that's kind of what I'm feeling with that here. But there's certain, it feels like really heavy old world stuff. I'm getting like more political kind of stuff maybe that really actually needs to be let go of. This is, again, we're dealing with Virgos, so very practical, day-to-day, grounded kind of things that really actually need to be let go of. And I've said this before with the initial ingress of the nodes here in Pisces and Virgo, the South Node in Virgo is letting go of, what we once thought was practical. And it's not going to be that way anymore, and we need to release it, right? And of course, with Mercury in Scorpio, remember Mercury also rules Virgo, so it's ruling over the South Node here. And in Scorpio, that aspect, there's that intensity, that aspect of transformation, getting to the bottom of things, to truly actually release something, to really see it for what it is. It's kind of might be getting thrown in our face where we see this heaviness, but it's still hard to let go of. But it's almost like, girl, look, you gotta do, you gotta let it go. You gotta let it go. Okay, you gotta let it go. All right, it's kind of that vibe. And remember, I'm kind of being drawn here to the fact that Mercury in Gemini, a lot of my guidance is it's bringing an awareness as well. An awareness, whether it's like a mental awareness or just clarity in some way through whatever avenue of communication. What I get with this, just an overall awareness of the depth of that, the intensity of, through the intensity of that, there's an overall deep awareness of this kind of stuff, of what it really feels like, the aspect of letting go in order to move forward. It feels like the lighted path, but there's, like I said, there's a hesitation there because it seems unknown. But you have to remember, Pisces deals a lot with that aspect of trust and faith and just going with it, following the breadcrumb trail, even if you know it's the right path for you, even if you don't know exactly where it's going to lead. So that's the vibe with that, all right? So also, also on this day, we're going to have the Sun here in quincunx to Saturn retrograde in Pisces. All right, I feel initially there's an aspect of balance coming through here, I think is initially what I'm getting. Let me just tune in some more. Sun, quincunx, Saturn. Okay. It's like these old structures or restrictions or whatever, and there's this aspect of balance, but I feel there's a frustration with certain people that don't want those old control structures to be let go of. It feels like the baddie people, like the bad people that are not wanting to let it go, and that's where that frustration comes in. However, what I'm also getting is it could feel frustrating to those who don't understand what truly is actually going on. So what we may see could be deceiving in terms of the actual balance and the letting go of certain control structures that are going on here. And it may not be fully understood because we may not be fully seeing. What I'm getting is fully seeing the actual depth of the negativity that exists within those structures here. Okay, and I get that because of this Saturn in Pisces is what I'm kind of being told, is that there's a deception that is occurring here surrounding these structures in terms of there's a lot that maybe exists in our planet that is really bad that has had this front of actually looking good. Okay, so there's a frustration here regarding this integration involving whatever justice or balance that is occurring that people may not feel might be justified, but it's because they're not seeing the entire bigger picture here surrounding this, or we're not being shown on purpose for whatever reason, or we're just not seeing it in general. Whether the media is being the media and trying to control shit for their own game, or whether we're just not intuitively into it, or we're just not seeing it for what it actually is and truly understanding the situation, which is why that could feel very frustrating. Okay? All right, that looks to be it for Sunday the 19th here. So let's move on to Monday the 20th. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, so this is when we're going to have this Mercury in conjunction to Mars. All right. Okay, let me just tune into this Mercury in conjunction to Mars. I got initial maybe an angry fieriness, and then this idea of action, taking action to either say, there's almost like say what needs to be said. Could feel an intensity or an anger to this. Taking action to say what needs to be said, or taking action based on what somebody has said. And this is in Scorpio, so this is like, we're fucking doing it, and there's going to be an intensity to this, and you're going to be fucking aware of what the hell is going on. Okay? And it's like this, like it feels like an intense situation, almost when somebody's like really mad at someone, but they're saying what's on their mind, and they're saying it for what it is, and they don't care. Right? They're not like thinking of the consequences necessarily. It's like, I need to say this. I don't give a fuck if it hurts you or what you think. You need to hear this. That's kind of the vibe of that energy, because that's what I feel from that Scorpio aspect that is coming through, is that intensity, that depth, and actually seeing it for what it actually is instead of just buttering up or beating around the bush. Okay, that's what I feel with that. All right, let's just kind of move on from that energy for today, okay? And let's go to, there's this Venus here that is going to be a semi-square to Black Moon Lilith. Okay. Student, there's Venus and semi-square to Black Moon Lilith. I get these two feminine energies. This strong Lilith energy and this Venus energy seem to be kind of working together. What I'm getting is it's almost like that Lilith energy wants to see justice, and her, her girlfriend over here, Venus. I don't mean that in, well, it's like the friendly vibe, like their girlfriends, but like not romantically, but as just friends. Her girlfriend over here in Libra is just like, hey girl, I can help you with that justice. Just hold on, okay? And that's where we're taking this. All right, that's what's going on here, okay? You know what? I got you, girl. I know you're intense. I know you've been shit on. I know you've had to deal with this shit, but don't you worry. I got you. I got you. We're gonna help with this justice because you shouldn't have been fucked like that. All right, let's go. Okay, that's what that feels like. Okay, can't believe we went there. Anything else with this? Anything? I'm actually getting this, in my mind, I'm getting this intense, what I feel is the Black Moon Lilith energy, and she's laughing at me for what I'm saying. and then she's like, yeah. She's like, yeah, that's about it. Okay, so the girlies got it together this week, okay? There's that energy of justice, because the Black Moon Lilith is where we can feel outcast as well. It's a very strong, intense, very strong feminine energy. It can be where we feel outcast, and in Scorpio brings a depth to that, reveals that, wants to transform that. And that's what I'm getting at with this. And then this Venus energy in Libra, it's like, hey girl, I got you in achieving the kind of like the balance that needs to occur here. All right, so that's the energy of that. Okay, let's go on here. We're also going to have, this is an interesting video so far, Mercury here in this quintile to Pluto. Okay, Pluto now direct. Okay, Mercury in quintile to Pluto. Initially, what I get is this idea of, it feels like intense transformation and change, progress moving forward in that way. Okay, but we may see communication of it, but we're not fully seeing the extent to which that is occurring in the background. Okay, and that's what that quintile here is relating to. There's more going on in the back, or we may be being told maybe this change, this transformation, this progress that is occurring, but there's a lot more going on in the background than not necessarily what we're being told. We're being told of it, but we're not seeing the full extent to which it is. It's like you're told that it's here. It's like you're told that there's an elephant in the room, but you're not in the room to see it in the room. Okay, so you're not seeing how big the elephant is that exists in the room, but you're being told that there's an elephant in the room, and the elephant is in the room, but you're not the one that's able to open the door to see it. Okay, that's kind of that vibe. All right, also we're going to have Mars here as well in quintile to Pluto. So let me just tune into this. What I get is the same thing, except there's an action-oriented aspect to this, in speaking and taking action towards it, to what is going on here. But again, that action is like that elephant in the room that is existing behind the scenes. We know it's there. We're being told it's there. It doesn't feel like it's a lie, but we're just not seeing the full behemoth for what it is. Like, maybe there's like a horn sticking out, or like, what do they have? It's not a horn. It's like a... I'm thinking of not an elephant. I'm thinking of like a mammoth or something. I don't know why. I mean, like, shown anyways. But it's like something sticking out, or like there's an animal in the room and there's like antlers, or like something sticking out, or its trunk is like poking up or something like that. And that's kind of what you see. And so you know that it's there, but you're not seeing the full extent to which that action is. You know that it's occurring and that it feels like it's a good thing, even if we don't necessarily see it as such. And I've talked about this in previous videos before. But yeah. Okay, so that's Monday the 20th. So let's move on here to Tuesday the 21st. Now on this day, the only thing I see on this day is this new moon in Libra. Now, before I get into this here, I just want to say that this new moon in Libra finally closes out the eclipse season that we had in September. The last eclipse was a new moon in Virgo at 29 degrees of Virgo. Okay, and because that was the beginning of that lunar month, that energy is existing throughout that entire month. Okay, so plus we've got stuff going on in Scorpio, right? We've got a lot of stuff going. There's just a lot of chaos and intensity happening in the world, regardless of what the fucking astrology is. Okay, astrology obviously plays a role here in terms of it's the energetic template and things are happening in a certain way. And yes, we have free will within that, of course, 100%. But there's a lot of, it's how we use the energy. I'm kind of being guided to say again, it is how we use this energy that we get to create in that way. Okay. So this is now then closing out finally this eclipse season as we head into now this new moon in Libra. However, even though this is the new moon in Libra and it's the start of a new lunar month and we're out of eclipse season, Mercury shadow also begins on this day, literally right before this new moon occurs. All right, so we're now heading into a new lunar month outside of this eclipse season, and then bam, Mercury shadow, and we're getting the vibes of this Mercury retrograde now starting to begin. Okay. I want to actually just go over, read my, do I do this? Let's go new moon in Libra first. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to touch on the Mercury retrograde stuff. All right. So let's go new moon in Libra. Okay. All right. Let me just tune in here. This new moon in Libra. It actually initially felt very new, really. But now I'm getting, it feels like there's a lot of work involved. A lot of work involved to achieve, and it's again trying to find this aspect of balance, justice. It feels like this aspect of positivity that exists within Libra in terms of that balance, justice, etc. But there's a lot of work involved within that. Anything else? New moon in Libra. I'm not getting anything else. So like I said, it feels like there's a lot of work. It feels like more globally, politically, that kind of stuff. But there's just like a lot of work going on in order to achieve kind of that aspect of balance, justice, etc. Okay, it could feel like there's a lot of turmoil. There is this opposition to Chiron that is existing here, so there could be a wound triggering or focusing on the balanced achieving through healing that kind of a wound, and we're dealing with Aries, independence, self-sovereignty, that kind of stuff, individuality, etc. Okay, excuse me. So usually when I burp like that, that's a sign that to pay attention to that, all right? We are also here in an out-of-sign square to Pluto, so that could definitely play a role in terms of progress and this push and get that work, that kind of, it feels like work, it feels like a difficulty, but it's like it's being done. It's almost like like the bulldozer pushing through. Okay, it's like it's being done in whatever way is what it's keeping flowing on that same aspect in vibes. When I tuned in there, it wasn't more, but I'm just unpacking what I've already kind of been given here. So yeah, that's the new moon in Libra. Let's have a look here. I'm going to touch on this Mercury retrograde, okay? I'm going to just go to my other screen here and pull up the notes because Mercury retrograde is what. So I do these videos on the fly, but Mercury retrograde because I want to look up the shadow period and the degrees, etc., so that I know how what to talk about in these videos because it doesn't show up on my little list. That is the one thing I do look at in this. So my notes here are Mercury enters shadow on October 21st, roughly around 5 a.m. Central Standard Time at 20 degrees 42 minutes of Scorpio, will go retrograde on November 9th at 1:01 p.m. at 6 degrees 51 minutes of Sagittarius, and then goes direct again November 29th at 11:38 a.m. and finally leaves shadow December 16th at around 10 p.m. Okay, now what this is signifying is that on October 21st, starting early in the morning, what happens starting there through this Mercury shadow all the way until the end when it leaves shadow on December 16th, the themes that are occurring within this are likely to come up to several times and are going to be highlighted throughout this entire retrograde. So what happens now, starting the 21st and through the shadow period, is likely to come up again and be re-looked at again all the way until the middle of December. So just be mindful of that now we're heading into this, okay? And this is a Mercury retrograde, well, in Sagittarius and in Scorpio. So most of it, because it happens, it starts shadow 20 degrees here of Scorpio. Most of it's in Scorpio, okay? There's only 7 degrees in Sag. So, yeah. Let me just go back here, and I'm going to tune in. Let's just start with the Mercury shadow itself. So I'm going to tune into the Mercury shadow itself, starting on the 21st, okay? Initially, what I'm getting already is really having a relook. It feels like almost like bigger things, whether it's like globally, politically, but also kind of in our own lives, of what needs to change, but in such a positive way. Okay, I'm kind of being drawn to look at the fact that the ruler of Scorpio here, Pluto, is in Aquarius. The sign of, that progress and change, humanitarianism, that kind of stuff. And that's what I feel with this. So we're likely to be made aware, or it almost feels like more, it could be externally focused when we see it in the real world, but also internally as well, in terms of this has to change. But it feels like there's this underlying, I want to say positivity. It feels like this liberation energy, like this underlying positivity. It's almost like when like a war ends and peace begins, or I'm almost getting this sense of like, the end of the Cold War, and like, it's like the Berlin Wall falling, like that kind of stuff, where it's like this, what needs to change, and like this coming together kind of an energy. Like that's what they're signifying to me, that this is like what we're really beginning to realize and start to go over in this Mercury shadow period. Now I'm being drawn to the fact that there's, as Mercury will enter Sagittarius as well, the fact that there's that global stuff that is likely to exist within that too. What I feel is the negativities of like war, that kind of stuff. And this feels like it's being brought to, or we're working on. I think the goal, what I'm kind of being drawn to say is the goal is to work on bringing that stuff to an end, the war stuff to an end, all that stuff to an end. Okay, and we can kind of see that already happening, but it's going to continue to try to occur here with this to bring that stuff to an end. That's that ultimate like support, positive support that is coming through to bring that stuff to an end. And there's this awareness that is coming through here, like how are we going to it's almost like, what are we going to do once we move on from this? It's like, okay, like we've dealt with this, but now it's like, okay, we got to transform now into this. It's like wanting to transform into like this period of peace, right? Transform into this period of peace. And this awareness of, and then going over these old things to have a real look at this, and wanting to approach this, wanting to solve it. Like, there really is an underlying higher vibrational energy that is here, that is really truly trying to help with this. I've said this in previous videos before, that regardless of what happens or who's doing it or whatever, there is an underlying high vibrational energy that is coming through here that can ultimately work through anyone, okay? To find a solution to this, to getting us peace, to getting to this space. I really it really feels that way. It really feels that way. Regardless, this is taking a good hard look at the transformation and changes and stuff that need to occur, but it feels so humanitarian and progressive. It feels so positive. Like, it really does. It feels like the end of the Cold War energy, the end of like the falling of the Berlin Wall, the people like coming together. Like, it feels like this aspect of almost like bringing back the humanity in a lot of ways. Okay, I'm just gonna, I could probably keep going, but I'm just going to leave it there. So just keep that in mind, at least for this, initial maybe Mercury shadow. I mean, more stuff could come up. Your life on an individual level, that's going to be up to you. You would need a personal reading on that one to figure out what specifically that might be for you, right? Because that's just how that works. A general reading is not going to work for an individual. I'm sorry, this is the general energetic vibe. You want something specific for you, you have to get a personal reading. Okay, and I'm not saying that to get personal readings, that's just how it is. Whether it's with me or with anybody else, it doesn't fucking matter. You want something that's personal to you, you've got to get a personal reading for you. These general online readings are just that's not gonna cut it specifically for what you may be going through. Okay? This is a general energy, and obviously what I'm talking about is a global thing, supportive thing that is coming through here. Alright? Anyways, that's Tuesday the 21st. Let's move on to Wednesday the 22nd. This is when we're going to have Neptune retrograding back into its home sign of Pisces. Okay? As well as at the end of the day, the Sun making its way into Scorpio. Okay? So let's first talk about this Neptune. So Neptune coming into Pisces. Let me just tune into this. I initially feel like this watery energy, like Neptune coming home, and then ultimately this positivity. It's like through whatever this change is going on in this world, whatever this Mercury shadow is that's trying to bring in and make us aware of this aspect of peace, or trying to help with that, or whatever that is. Okay, well, the word that I'm getting is softening. It's Neptune and Pisces softening. Okay, and it's letting go of these old things that are not serving us anymore. Old deceptions, old manipulations, etc. As Neptune is retrograde, I'm getting, because of the retrograde, those old things are, it's almost like being let go of, in a way. Okay, I feel like I'm just going to leave it there, okay? With the Sun now coming into Scorpio, I don't focus a lot on sun sign bullshit. I'm just going to say it. I'm just going to fucking say it. Because if all you're doing is focusing on your sun sign or your sun, moon, and rising, you're not doing it right. You're really not doing it right. And you're not giving yourself the opportunity to really truly understand the core of who you are and who you actually came here to be. You really aren't. You're not at all. Okay? There is so much more to an astrology chart than just your sun sign or just your big three or whatever, and definitely just your sun sign. Your sun sign may not even be the prominent energy in your chart at all. At all. It may mean like you could be expressing a stronger energy that exists in your chart that has absolutely nothing to do with your sun sign at all. Okay? So that is why I do not go by any kind of, oh, I'm a Cancer, or I'm this, or I'm that. To me, that is nothing but fluffy fucking bullshit. That's all that is. Because that means nothing. That means nothing to me. Because you know what? Even if you're looking just at the sun, it's not just what sign it's in. What degree is it at? What is it aspecting? What house is it in? What is the house ruler? Okay? And that's just basic astrological stuff for anybody that's going to do a reading. Let alone someone like me or anybody else that does this intuitively that's going to be able to tune in to why. Why did your higher self choose to have sun in that sign, in that house, aspecting whatever, with that house ruler, etc.? Why? What is that specifically for you? Is it a major energy for you? Is it not? What part of that aspect is meant to be in your character that you're wanting to live in this life? Right? There is so much more to this, is what I'm trying to say. So much more to this. And I say this every single time I talk about the sun coming into a new sign. Because part of me doing this astrology is to drill the point home that the focus just on your sun like that is a deception. It's an utter deception to make astrology look like bullshit. It's a complete, utter deception to make it look like bullshit. Because there is so much more to that. Yes, there are energetic cycles. Yes, they do exist. Yes, the universe operates on certain cycles. However, those cycles are different in different solar systems. They're fucking everywhere. Time is not really fully what we think that it is in a lot of ways. Okay? And it's not always linear. There's a lot of stuff that I've been previously guided and asked about, especially talking about like time travel and things like that. That is just like, it's like, yeah, that does exist. I've guided, yeah, that does exist. And this aspect of like quantum physics and all of that, it's just, there's concepts that it's like, yeah, we can understand, but we don't have a basis for it yet. Even with astrology, we don't fully understand what this is because we don't fully understand the true quantum concepts of the universe yet. It's not that we can't understand them, it's that we don't have actual foundational knowledge that exists in the mainstream for us to actually truly fully understand what this really is, to the extent to which of what it actually truly is. Okay, which is why doing this intuitively is actually very important. Okay, and not just reading off of some base meanings. And not that I want to knock people that are trying to get into it and learn it, but if you want to learn this, learn to do it intuitively, learn to go within and tap into this on your own, because that is really truly going to help you to shine in approaching this stuff. And of course, with this sun sign stuff, it's just like, it really, you cannot just focus on that at all. That's complete and utter BS. And it completely waters down and destroys any and all really true meaning of what any of this actually really is. 100%. And that's what I'm trying to get at here. I'm not trying to be a dick about it. I'm trying to be a dick to the assholes that are trying to fuck this up for everybody else. But I'm not trying to be a dick to those that are trying to actually learn and understand this for what it actually is. Okay? Or that have been taught something that is just not what it really actually is, right? They've been deceived, okay? But anyway, you got to listen to your own heart and really trust in that, in terms of, even if you want to listen to me or listen to whoever, right? Because I'm not really here to tell you what to do. I'm here to say this and say what I'm guided to do, it's up to you to take this and use it for what you want. Okay? That's not up to me. You have complete and utter free will. You don't have to listen to me. You don't have to listen to fucking anyone. But I am just giving you what I am getting and what I am doing with this work. All right? Anyways, I'm going to just stop the rant here, and now I will tune into the sun coming into Scorpio. And it's probably just going to feel like Scorpio. Sun coming into Scorpio. It just feels like Scorpio. Is there anything special to this? I instantly got a big no. It's just the energy of Scorpio in a general understanding, a general illumination of it. If the sun is aspecting something or is full moon's new or whatever, then there could be more stuff to that. But as with any solar ingress that I have talked about in however many past few videos, all I really say is it just feels like whatever sign that it's in. So to me, what I'm getting is it just feels like Scorpio. So yeah, it feels like Scorpio. And that's all I'm going to say. Also on this day, we're going to have the sun here in quincunx to Neptune. Now, let's see. Does that happen? So that does happen. That peaks, yes, after the sun enters into Scorpio. So let me just tune in here to this sun here in Libra in quincunx to Neptune and Pisces. I hear the word softening again. Okay, but there's an intensity. Okay, there's an intensity. That intensity that leads to softening. It's almost like there's a frustration surrounding that intensity, or that leads to that intensity, regarding that Sun and Scorpio energy. That's highlighting just that base Scorpio energy. But through the expression of that, leads to, there's an aspect of softening that occurs. It's almost like when you're having what I'm getting is you're having a heated argument with someone, and you finally say what it is. You finally say what's on your heart. You finally say it for what it is. Again, that Scorpio energy. Say it for what it is, and you let it out there. And it's finally out. And the other person is just like, and then you just, all of a sudden the anger just disappears. The rage disappears. All of that disappears. And then you're just like, I just wanted it this way, or I just just that. That's just how I felt. And then all of a sudden there's just silence, and you both kind of look at each other, and you're just like, okay. And you kind of get to the point where it's like, there's that softening that occurs, and maybe you both just end up like giving each other a hug. And then you're like, okay, let's talk through this. Let's work through this. That is the kind of energy that I am getting with this quincunx here. That frustration as a trigger through that intensity that leads to an aspect of softening. Okay. Let me move on here. Let's move on to Thursday the 23rd, where we're going to have this Mercury here, Mercury, in a conjunction to Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio. Let's see if our girlfriends come back here. Okay, so Mercury in conjunction to Black Moon Lilith. I get her that she's laughing at me again. That's what I feel like there's. But then she's like, there's an awareness here. She's like, yeah, she's like, like there's an awareness here is what I get with this. Like, we saying it for what it is, okay? We saying it for what it is, girl, and that's how it's gonna be. All right, that's that Lilith energy. She's saying it for what it is. That aspect of communication. Don't matter, don't care. It is what it is. Okay, that's that vibe. All right, I'm just gonna leave it at that. And she's like, she kind of laughs, and this is like, yeah, that's what I get. All right, let's move on. Okay, so we're gonna have now the sun here. which will now be in quincunx to Uranus retrograde. So there is actually a yod here that is forming with this Uranus, Neptune, Sun aspect going on here. But anyway, I'm feeling guided to not really talk specifically about that. We're just going to focus on this quincunx. All right, so Sun in quincunx to this Uranus retrograde in Gemini. So Sun, quincunx, Uranus. What I get is as aspect of a communication, which could be intense. Again, it's talking about change. Uranus is retrograde, which is talking about these old things. And I said this is highlighting with this Uranus retrograde in Gemini, specifically as it's currently in Gemini, bringing an awareness of what needs to actually change. And so it's kind of like bringing this to light. But sadly, it almost feels like people aren't paying attention. Maybe because it's the person that's saying it, even though it needs to be said, or there's some, so there you go. That's likely what it is. Okay, and now I'm feeling that's where the quincunx comes in. That's where the frustration lies, in that the awareness of what actually needs to change and the intensity that is existing there is coming through someone or something in which they don't want to actually listen to, even though that person is right. That's where that frustration comes in. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that. We also on this day have Jupiter in square to Chiron retrograde here. Okay? Okay, so Jupiter in Cancer square to Chiron retrograde. Let me just tune in here. I'm kind of being sucked over to Jupiter. There's okay, nurturing the wound is what I'm getting, because we're dealing with Cancer, like a motherly type energy. Nurturing the wound. It's kind of like expanding its awareness in order for it to be dealt with and healed. It's almost like what I get is like, let's say you're in a hospital and let's say you've got an injury, you've gone in there and nobody's really properly there's lots of chaos going on, and there's one person that like sees it and nobody really is like really paying attention to you. And what I see is like there's a woman or a person or like maybe a nurse or something or someone that like sees it and is like, oh my god, like she's starting to tend to it, and then she starts yelling at people around her to be like, hey, like somebody's got to come help here. It's like bringing more, like expanding that aspect of like nurturing awareness to whatever this is. And what I'm getting is that's that old wound. The wound that has already occurred because Chiron is in fact retrograde. Okay, that's what I'm getting with that, or the overall vibe of what that energy is. Okay, so let's move on here now to Friday the 24th. We're going to have the Sun here now in Scorpio in square to Pluto in Aquarius. And of course the Sun is in Pluto's sign. So okay, let me just what I get is the word blunt. Okay, let me tune into this a bit more. Sun square Pluto. It's like blunt intensity. What I almost get is like that fixed energy of these signs of stubbornness. Blunt intensity, not giving a fuck, and saying that this is how it is. Now, whether that energy can be used for both good and bad, okay? What I'm getting is a negative sense from this energy. It could feel very negative, and maybe that. Okay, what I'm getting now is that is the aspect that needs to be resolved and changed. Is that negative part of that fixed kind of a vibe. Again, what I said, it could be used for good or bad. In this sense, what I feel is it's bad, but this square is bringing it up in order that that's a referencing of what needs to actually be taken action towards changing, okay? In that sense, okay? I'm just kind of going to leave it at that. Let's go to this. We're also going to have Mercury here in quincunx, where we are, to Chiron retrograde. So let me just kind of tap into this Mercury in quincunx to Chiron retrograde. There's an intensity surrounding the wound. It's almost like a frustration that it hasn't been dealt with. And that's where the quincunx comes in. Someone is being vocal about it, saying it, but they're kind of, it's almost like they're being rude. They're not intending to be rude, but because of the stress and the pressure of nobody actually listening or paying attention to them, they're like getting more intense about this and being like, hey, this is a fucking issue. Pay attention. Okay? And that's where that frustration comes in into whatever that old wound is existing with that. All right. Last thing I'll mention on this day is that Mercury will also be in trine to Jupiter. So again, I feel like maybe it relates to that nurturing aspect with that Jupiter in square to Chiron too that is here. And maybe there's bringing up that awareness to it. But let me just, hey, Mercury in trine to Jupiter. Yeah, what I get is like a motherly energy that is with that Mercury there trying to discuss or bring it up or in communication or whatever it is. Even if it's not something that's good to talk about or that people want to talk about, but bringing it up because it needs to be talked about and it needs to be like nurtured, fixed, and dealt with in that sense. That's like the mom bringing up the situation that needs to be looked at and dealt with in order to fix it or whatever. All right, so that's that vibe for Friday here, the 24th. Let's move on to the end of the week here on Saturday, the 25th. We are going to have, the sun here in biquintile to Saturn retrograde again here. So let me just tune into this to this sun in biquintile to Saturn retrograde. Feels like there's something being worked on behind the scenes regarding an aspect of like change, transformation. It almost feels outside or away from the negative energy that I feel is coming from that Saturn, that restriction, that those restrictive structures, that control, etc. Anything else? It just feels kind of like behind the scenes being like, okay, this is how we're going to have to deal with this. This is how whatever. And it's kind of just being worked on in that sense. It's almost like you're working on it in a room at home and taking care of things. So it's not really being seen outwardly by the general public in some way. We're also going to have the sun here making minor aspects to the nodes. So we're going to have this sesqui-square to the north node. Really isn't something minor, but it's there. And then this semi-square to the south node. So let me just kind of generally tune in here to this sun making those aspects to the nodes. I feel like a push in moving forward. With that sesqui-square, there's an intense push in moving forward and letting go of what needs to be let go of. Is what I really feel like that. You have to remember with that sesqui-square, that's like a square and a half in terms of like the angle or like a super square. And so it really pushes for something to occur or whatever. Now you have to remember when it comes to squares, they're not always bad. They bring up something that needs to be taken action on or needs to be dealt with in some way. That's what that energy really is. That does not have to be bad. The situation may seem bad, but it's only like that because you have to do something about it. Okay, it's only when you don't actually do something about it or don't want to deal with it that it feels bad. But it's being brought up to you for a reason because you need to actually fucking deal with it. Okay, that's what that energy is. Doesn't have to be bad. It's how you deal with it in terms of whether it's going to make it good or bad. Okay. Now, the sesqui-square, it, like I said, it feels like a push in that direction, and this it's like this push and letting go. It really feels like just like this letting go of that stuff that not for you. We're not going this way. We're going forward. Okay, it's a push in that new direction. All right, and then we're also going to have as well Mercury here in trine to Saturn retrograde there at the end of Scorpio. So, well, Mercury at the end of Scorpio, Saturn at the end of Pisces retrograde, okay? So Mercury trine Saturn. So and remember, Mercury's in shadow. So let me just tune into this here. Mercury trine Saturn. I'm getting again what I feel like is that positive energy. It's really feel it from my heart, like uplifting the heart. What I'm here, what the words that I just heard were peace talks. Peace talks. And again, like I said, intuitively, things can change, but I'm hoping that what I'm getting here is correct. I feel this really positive energy that is coming through, honestly, with this, and it's like peace talks. It feels very high vibrational. It feels like we're lifting up, moving into a better space. What I get is it's dissolving the negative aspects of this restrictive Saturn energy, dissolving it. Okay, and bringing it into a more compassionate space, that aspect of Pisces. So like I said, with Saturn and Pisces, the dissolution of that malefic energy, in essence. Yeah, I'm just going to leave it at that for that one. So, yeah, that's the end of this week. Bring it back so I can see myself. Okay, so I'm just going to tune in for a general vibe here for maybe how it could feel on an individual level, energetically for this week, and then after that I'll do globally. Okay, so on an individual level, what can people kind of expect for this week? I feel like lots of talking, communicating, as in like maybe taking care of things. It's like talking about things regarding actually what needs to be changed, really. It's kind of what I said. But that's kind of what it feels like with that. Is there anything else with that? It's just kind of being drawn a blank, so maybe that's maybe like the main kind of general vibe. Remember, that's a general vibe, okay? Okay, globally, politically, economically, what have we got? I'm hearing what I got the words peace talks again. I'm feeling this underlying. I see Trump. I see Trump. I see, and again, this is just what I'm getting, guys. Whether you love him or hate him, I'm not here to create division or whatever. And what I'm here to say is that the light can work through anyone. Even if you don't like him, it could still work through him. It can work through anyone. Okay. But like, I'm not trying to say that he is whatever. Guys, all I'm saying is that no matter what happens, there is this underlying support that exists here. Okay? That's all that I'm saying. Okay? I'm not siding with anyone. I'm not saying this is this, that is that, whatever. I am just saying that there's an underlying aspect of support here, okay, that is coming through, and he's one that showed, whether this is good or bad surrounding him, he is showing up. I'm just saying what I'm seeing. All right. Any more globally? It feels like there's an energy of peace. Like I said, peace talks. I see Trump, and then I get this vibe. What I get like is there's this negative energy that is almost like being pushed away by peace, by this higher vibrational energy, by that kind of stuff. It's being pushed away. It's almost like it's no longer having this aspect of power any longer over us. It's being pushed away. Okay, and in essence, that's why I feel like this higher vibrational aspect of peace. All right, so, and again, this could be working through anyone, and I'm just, honestly, guys, I'm just saying what I'm getting, and it is what it is, okay? Like, I'm not here to pick any kind of a side, or whatever. I'm not here to do that. I'm not here to engage in political division, because in all honesty, if we're meant to go to a better place and a better world of peace, we all need to learn to get along, and we all need to stop giving in to the divisive fucking bullshit that exists out there. We need to learn to come together and actually talk to each other. We really do. Yeah. I'm just going to end it there for this week. Okay. So if you have made it this far in the video, leave a purple heart in the comments so I know you're a real one, and I hope to see you all in next week's video. Take care.